H final. Alluding to something I said earlier, an object can have kinetic and potential at the same time. Mass in every term, so we can get rid of just the mass. Or, if you want, we can make the mass anything we want it to be. If we make it 1 kilogram, that means we'll be multiplying everything by 1. So I have 3.7 times 40 equals 1/2 times my, that should be a final speed there. Final speed squared, that's what we're trying to find, plus 3.7 times my final height, which would be 25 meters. So doing the fancy math here, that's 0, 8, 148. Okay. Is equal to 1/2 V final squared plus, I had to put 5 in there.
$92.5.
Thank you. I'm solving for V. What's the first thing I would do? Subtract what?
92.
All right, so let's bring this over by subtracting it. Minus 92.5. Minus 92.5. So I got 1/2 VF squared equals whatever that difference is, something 0.5. So 55.5?
Yes, sir.
All right, so 55.5 is equal to 1/2 V final squared. Yes?
Sorry, this is backtracking. 25, is that just like 40 minus 15?
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions up to here? Just rewriting what I have down there at a more reasonable height for me. Now what?
So we got to multiply 1/2 on both sides.
You might have done exactly what you're supposed to do, but what you said was not correct.
Okay.
I heard you say multiply both sides by 1/2. That will not get rid of the 1/2. So
Divide 1/2?
divide by 1/2 or
Multiply times 1.
or multiply times 2. You said or more?
2 over 1, but yeah.
Oh, 2 over, okay. So we have to get rid of that. We either multiply by 2 or we divide by 1/2. The math people say that's the exact same thing, and I have to trust them most of the time. All right. So dividing that by 1/2, same as multiplying by 2, so that is 111. Five times 2 is 110, 1/2. I think that's 111. Now what? Somewhere around 10.5. What is it?
10.5.
10.5? Oh, okay. Now we're at our final answer here, so what are the units?
Meters per second.
So for all of these, we're gonna use the formula for kinetic energy.
Most likely we'll be using 1/2 mv squared a lot for energy problems.
But we're gonna use it like for all of these problems.
I'd have to look over the problems again, but first one, yes. Second one, no. Third one, no. fourth one, no. Fifth one, yes. Sixth one, yes. Did I read that wrong? No, yep, 6, 1, 7, yes. 8, yes. 9, yes. And 10, yes. Whether we'll be using the formula for kinetic energy in it.
Formula for kinetic and potential or just kinetic?
I wasn't looking at potential. Not all of them would be potential.
Okay.
Because there's the one where if the height doesn't change and there's no spring involved, then potential energy could be ignored. For the reason that I would actually answer why the initial height was 40. When we plugged into this equation here, we had this 40 right here and the 25 here. Suppose instead we had done 0 and 15 as my initial heights. Or 15 is my initial height and 0 is my final height. How would the answer have changed?
Because the final velocity would have been 0, not what we were trying to find. It would stop. If like that was ground level, 0 is.
I'm not claiming it's ground level.
Oh, okay.
All I'm claiming is that the top height is 15 meters above the bottom height.
Oh, okay.
Well, let's see how it would change over here. So instead of 40, I put in 15. Instead of 25, I put in 0. So this would become 0. And this
55.5.
remember, ultimately, the specific value of potential energy at some location is not particularly important. What is important is the change in potential energy. It doesn't matter that you pick 0 here and this was 40 meters and 25 meters, because the difference in potential energy is what gets transferred into kinetic. So making 0 here means that's 15. If I had made 0 here, this would have been negative 15. If this is 40, this is 0, which is what I was trying to get you to say earlier. By making this 40, it's because somebody wants to set the ground as 0. That was 25. By setting 0 not to either at the starting point or the ending point, by putting 0 at the ground, you've added an extra term. It's not a huge difference in the amount of math that we did the first time, but it is one extra step that you have to do by picking the ground as 0 and not the end point as 0. Now, if you're thinking, well, the ground is the end point, it's going to eventually hit the ground, that's after the problem ends. We don't know what happens after the problem ends. It does not matter. It's possible that the thing drops to the 15 meters and then all of a sudden explodes into a million pieces. Mysteriously hits the rip in the space-time continuum and ends up someplace else. As Einstein said. No, that's going to contradict whatever we're talking about. Never mind. Questions on this? Yeah, Brianna.
Okay, so I know when you said how did you remember A part C, but I don't understand it. It was
That was the work done?
Yeah.
if I have an object here with, let's say that the amount of kinetic energy it has is 100 joules. And then something happens to it. In the case of that problem, something's going to collide into it. But I have an object that has 100 joules of kinetic energy, and then something happens, and now it has 70 joules of kinetic energy. A gain of kinetic energy or a loss? I'm pretty sure loss, but
A loss of kinetic energy?
yeah. There was a lot of weak voices there. I could hear Toya. So the amount of kinetic energy, the change in my kinetic energy, final minus initial, negative 30 joules. I know from the work energy relationships that the total work done on an object is equal to the change in its kinetic energy. This is one of the things that you were testing in the lab you did last week with that Atwood's machine. So I know that whatever the circumstances were, in the problem 8, I just gave a little bit more of a backstory, but if I have an object and I know the loss of kinetic energy, I know how much work was done to it. That's the essence of it. Okay. Other questions at the moment?
I have a question not relating to the master set.
Okay.
Did you want questions on the master set or?
No.
Okay. When are the next master sets due? Like 8 through 10? It says it's due on the.
I have it written down due Wednesday, but I shifted stuff around for the other group, I guess not this group. Why don't we make 8 through 10 due on Monday? And then 19 through 21 due the following Monday.
You said 8 through 10 on Monday, and then what?
And then 19 through 21 due October 3rd. Oh, and speaking of which, now I'm looking at my calendar, on October 5th, I probably, office hours start at 9:30 on Wednesdays. I will not be here at 9:30. I'll get here probably about 10 till 10, based on what happened a couple Wednesdays ago.
So you have office hours before this class?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes.
And after this, no,
After this class, it's
lab, yeah.
like 2:30, and
Yeah,
I need a nap.
yeah, no, for real. For real. Today sleep was trying to tell me, you're not important, stay in the bed. I didn't see me up here.
I appreciate that. Sometimes you just have to give sleep the middle finger.
Okay.
Isabel.
What's the next test?
The next test I have written down here on October 3rd is going to be that multiple choice test.
What multiple choice test?
The one you did the first day?
Oh. That's our next test?
Yeah, that's October 3rd. And then the last, you need a calculator test would be October 10th, which is the last day for the course.
And that's testing us on what?
On which check?
He better not.
Well, I'll let you know as we get closer. I know what I want it to be on, but realistically, we'll figure that out when we get there.
Gotcha.
Force diagram.
You want a force diagram on the last test?
No, that's it. Just one.
One force diagram.
I mean, they're really important, right? Yeah.
That would work really well for some of you, and some of you, I think it would be, you're one of Dante's levels of hell.
Well, just have a choice A test and a choice B test, that's choice A.
Give you a test with maybe 100 problems on it, just pick the ones you want to do, and Have any of you seen the movie Exam? Highly recommended, highly recommended. It's not a flawless movie, but it's still very engaging. You have people trying to get a job, they're put into a room, and they basically have 80 minutes, I think it's 80 minutes, to answer the question. Trouble is, they don't know what the question is. There are certain rules that go along with it, but then, you know, it's that you work together to figure out the question, or do you work against each other as you go? And it's a very fascinating film. I've wanted to do an exam like that. Haven't figured out how to do it without, you know, lives being threatened. So, not going to go that far. But anyway. Other questions? Amina?
So the test on the third, there wasn't math on that one, was there?
Nope. It was all concept. No calculator required. Unless you want the security of it.
What chapters is it on?
Primarily on 2 through 5 is the bulk of it. The additional chapters, I don't give the test earlier, even after we've finished 5, I don't give it earlier just because the next couple chapters sort of give a different way of looking at things, which might or might not help you. I'd like to think they help.
And the test on the 10th is the rest of the chapters?
Yes, with whatever modifications, so I'll let you know when we get closer.
Will we have the exam for the class?
Pardon?
Is there an exam for the class?
No, there's no exam period. If you're used to another school, there's not an exam period here. It's just typically the last day of class is a test. Whether it is cumulative or just whatever we haven't tested on yet, it's up to the instructor.
Is there test corrections for the second test and just not the exam? Or is there no test corrections?
There's the test corrections for the first test, but not for the next two.
Okay.
Oh yeah, test corrections are due Monday, right?
2 weeks after I gave it back. When did I give it? I gave it back on Wednesday. I gave it back on Wednesday, so they would be due Wednesday of next week. And again, if you're planning to do them and they're not ready to hand in yet, just let me know when you're going to get them to.
That'd be 9/28, right, too?
I'm looking at the wrong calendar there, so that would, today's the 19th, so that would be the 28th. Is when test or two. Test corrections. So when test corrections, I'm expecting test corrections, not another test, in case someone just woke up. What, we have another test? All right. What I would like to do is get something from the other room that I can throw. I will be back. I'm just going to let the camera roll the blank space, but just let you know it's running right soon. As long as you can see the X, that's the important thing. All right, that's obviously the spot. All right, hold it here. Okay. So, as I'm swinging this around, the question is, where do I release it so that it hits X? So, looking at the map of the room here, so I have X roughly here, and I'm standing somewhere about there. And I'm swinging it around, and the question is, where do I release it? So just for the point of communication, because you're going to offer speculation, for the point of communication, just like 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, so forth. I heard a 4.
A 6?
Say 2. 2?
That hurt 2.